What's up, you guys? It's your boy Zens. We're back on the channel. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Hopefully this video goes out on Monday because this is going to be weird. Yeah, so anyways, today we're going to be doing 808s. Something highly requested. I always get a bunch of DMs about like 808s and stuff. Though it's not super complicated and I usually don't have much to share, especially much more because I've done one. I'll definitely have a link in the description to that video and it'll be at the end of this video. So you could go watch that and get a little bit more sauce. But it's kind of like the same principles, but it's just like related in like a better way. Obviously better editing and stuff. So it's going to be a little bit more comprehensive. Yeah, so today 808s, 808 theory, kind of like where I like to put my 808s at and stuff, like with spots, with pockets, kind of just showing you like the length and placement of everything. So
holy shit. Okay.
so this is how like the main 808 is sounding, just like the regular bass one before I started changing stuff around. People are gonna probably have questions about the mix on this. As you can see, there is not a lot going on here. All I did was boost the mids here. Everything else is raw. And I got the fruity limiter, which is just being connected to the kick for just sidechain. So getting into the 808, my idea behind it was when I heard like sort of like the melody going on, it was like a really like staccato melody, like it's hitting every bar and it's really like aggressive. The transient is really sharp, right? So I thought I'd just replicate like that sort of sound and feel to it with the 808s. So the 808s are really like short, it's like little stutters in there. Even the slides are just like real like sharp. They pop in and out, you know, just get straight out the way so it could give room for like the drums, the melody, everything else, you know. There's no real like trick to this. I can show you guys like how I did like the slides and stuff, but where I put them is literally just based on how I was kind of like feeling and like just using my ears and finding like little pockets and empty spaces in the beat to just fill those certain areas up with slides instead of like, you know, drums and stuff. So for the stutters, all I do is just go to the snap to grid and I usually change it to one of the highest ones to give it a lot of steps. And then all you gotta do is highlight a single note like this. That scared the freak out of me. All you gotta do is highlight a single note and then hit Control U. And then it's gonna separate and cut them based on the snap to grid lines. And the smaller you do it, the smaller the notes are gonna be. And then all you gotta do is just alternate them, which is what I did here. So you can see up here, most of them are on the bottom, but then there's a few top ones and they're just alternating in velocity, which is just a callback to what I usually do with my kicks, which is like put one kick at 100% velocity and then the second kick right after or before it is 50%. So just doing the same principle, but just with the 808s at this point, and just doing a lot of them so it creates a little stutter effect. Other than that, everything else is regular slides. All you got to do for slides is going to slide up or down depending on whether you put the note on the top or the bottom. So the main note that you want to slide to has to be the actual slide note. So it's sliding down to D5 here. So this here has the slide and portamento on. And then I just hit accept. Easy peasy. The regular note has nothing on it. Portamento and the slide is off. After that, you just need to adjust the timing and the length of the slide. The longer you make the slide is literally going to make the slide longer over time. So if you want really fast slides, you just make the notes smaller. And then if you want really long slides, which is usually not the case, but you could do it sometimes and it works really well in some cases. But most times you're trying to do like really like fast staccato slides. So you want to make the notes really short like over here. And this is how you get those really fast slides. And you want to get them out the way before the next 808s come in. For this one, it's not super slow, but it's not super fast either. And this is mostly because it's the beginning of the measure and it's just like right when the beat drops. So you don't need nothing super crazy happening right when the beat drops. You can have all the slides happening a little bit after the bar hits. So sometimes you don't even need a bunch of complicated 808 slides. Like this part here. there is only one slot going on, but it's just that I keep cutting the 808 off and creating little pockets of silence to kind of like give it a little bit more bounce, if that makes sense. That's simply because I have the 808 fully controlled. So when the note ends, the 808 literally ends and stops in complete silence instead of like kind of like ringing out with like a tail or something like that. And the main way to do that is just going to the envelope and copying these settings. You just push the hold up and you turn everything else down. And then I just push the attack up because it's just something I always do because it's usually a little bit too aggressive at the beginning of an 808 clip sometimes. I would mention right now, since we're on here, that I feel like the most important thing is to pick a good 808 off rip. Like if you pick a really bad 808, you're either gonna take really long trying to make it sound good, or it's just not going to sound good at all. If you want to make stuff that's aggressive, hard hitting, match those type of sounds. It really just depends. You just got to use your ears. Sound selection, once again, is key to a lot of this stuff. After you mess with the envelope, you should have full control over the 808 at this point. After that, you can just put these little like note stabs everywhere and just cut the 808 off whenever you want to. In these type of beats, it works perfectly. You could just have it come in for a second and then just jump right out the mix, put it back in, jump it out. And then you could just switch what octave you want them to be in each time, which is exactly what's happening here. It's going from an A6 all the way down to A4. Okay, so here's the second 808 pattern I made. So it's a bit shorter because I ended up mixing it with the last part of the first 808 pattern. But the main difference is that I just added the 4 slides in the middle here. As you can see, the rest of it is identical to the first 808 pattern. I copied and pasted it over, and I just deleted some of it and added a few more slides just for variation, to give it a little bit more hype and make sure that you kind of convince the listeners that the beat is changing a lot when it's really just the 808 pattern. Other than the second 808 pattern, there's one more pattern that comes in. So as you can see, it's just a bunch of random slides because it's just for like a little breakdown part right before the beat drops. I would mostly recommend that you copy down the length and the placement of these 808 notes. Like as you can see, if I go to the snap to grid and put it on 1/2 beat, you can see where I'm kind of putting these 808 notes at. These are really common places to put them at, especially with these type of drums and how I kind of program the drums. Now you can kind of see where these notes are kind of hitting at. Every kind of like snap to grid line here is where a possible 808 note should really be at, especially for this type of BPM. It's just the perfect placement for these. Obviously, some of that is objective. Like you could still go way more crazy with it and be more creative if you want. Other than these 808s, this is the basic part. I think the more complex part comes in when I start layering the 808s. So this is the 808 from the intro, but it's the layered version. So let's hear what this is sounding like. So as you can hear, this is perfectly mixed to be layered on top of something. Just the right amount of frequencies are cut out, just enough reverb and space to give it a little bit of back end room away from the main 808. It's perfect to be layered. So I'm gonna go in on the mixer and show you guys how I kind of mix this. So as you can see, it's obviously not on the same mixer track as the main 808. The first thing you immediately notice is that it's lower in volume than the main 808. That's the first thing you want to do. As soon as you start stacking and layering sounds, it's going to make it louder. So that's why you got to bring it back if you're going to start layering stuff. It's very important. People like to layer, but they don't like to mix afterwards. So here's the mixing settings. I'm going to go over each one. You can go ahead and copy these down. Most of them are stock plugins, but we're going to still go into all of them. Fruity chorus, regular preset. I didn't touch any of the knobs here. Only knob I touched was this one, and I pulled it back to about like 50%. This is up to preference. This kind of just spaces the 808 out a little bit and thins it out too. So this sort of makes it a little bit easier to mix over the main 808. Chorus is very useful for that. The reverb, as you could tell, is pretty laid back. I really recommend this reverb plugin. It's come up in many of my videos so far. I'm sure you really can't go too crazy with this one because the reverb on this plugin is insane. So you definitely want to make sure you crank this way back. This is literally on 8% and it's still quite a bit of reverb on 808. For the EQ, I'm just using a stock EQ. This is the same settings from the main 808, but then I do the low end cut here, and that's the main difference. You really don't want a lot of low end coming in. Some coming in, but it's not a lot. The rest that's coming in is not going to be super detrimental because we pushed the volume down a bit. So definitely copy these settings. These are really optimal, doing the mid boost and then doing the low end cut. I use management on the 808, right? And I put it on the live preset. Now I usually do this for processing my loops. And what this does, this live preset, as you can see right here in the plugin, is showing you kind of what it's doing. This little dot that's moving is kind of the effect that it's having on the 808. It's just ever so slightly bouncing the sound from left to right ear, so it sounds a little bit crazy. This is something you only could really notice in headphones, but if you're listening on headphones with this beat, it sounds nuts. Definitely recommend getting this because it saves me a bunch of time. I could probably automate this or something and make it sound a little bit crazier. I love how subtle the effect is, but at the same time, it has a really big impact on headphones. And the last thing I have is delay. So the main effects I really had here that were sort of like the point of layering these two 808s was the top 808 is supposed to really give that delay and reverb effect off. So you want to make sure you get those out there as much as possible without overkill. So here's the delay settings I used on here. Once again, stock. You don't need to be paying for stuff like this. This is basic stuff that any plugin could do. Some of them just have a bit more features than others, but this one gets the job done. As you can see, I'm still using it. So I just put it on like ping pong, and then I just kind of just mess with the knobs and kind of listen to the beat over and over again with the 808. Just kind of like listen to what timing works and when I need the 808 to start fading out, especially like things like delay and stuff. Can't be too overkill because it starts to really mess up things. So you got to make sure you get that perfect in between where it's not too much, but it's not too little for it to, you know, not be noticed or something. Once again, this is something that just takes practice and time and a lot of ear training. You just got to keep making these type of beats, and you got to just keep using your ears. First time around, probably gonna take you a while. Took me a while at least, and you just start finding certain settings. Like I usually keep it on the 4 for the timing, but you can really use anything. You just got to use your ears and see what kind of goes with the vibe of the beat. And the last thing that's key to layering these 808s like this is the second pattern that you're going to layer and put reverb and delay on. It needs to be an octave higher than the main 808. If we go back to the first 808, you can see that this is at a D6. Now if we go back to our higher 808, it's at a D7. So everything's been pushed up one octave. Control up and down will push it up an octave or take it down an octave. And shift down and shift up takes it down or up one semitone. So both of those keys are super useful, especially for programming 808s and doing these type of layering techniques. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Make sure you let me know if this actually helped you out. If I ended up like, you know, kind of changing your mind about a few things or kind of like pushing you in the right direction. That being said, guys, that's it for this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.